11 was feared, unpredictable, and stronger than anyone around her. This is the story of how a lost child became the deadliest weapon Hawkins ever knew. Every battle, every bond, every sacrifice. But from the very beginning, she carried something no one could see. And to find it, we need to return to where it all began. Before she was 11, she was Jane Ives, born to Terry Ives, a young woman caught in the secret web of Project MK Ultra. Terry believed she was part of simple medical experiments. But what she didn't know was that her child would become one of the program's most dangerous outcomes. From the moment Jane was born, she was different. Brenner saw it. He took her, stole her from her mother, erased her name, and with a single black mark on her wrist, 011, Jane became 11. Her world was concrete walls, locked doors, and endless experiments. No family, no childhood, no love, only Papa. That's what she was forced to call Brenner. To her, he was both protector and prison guard, a man who praised her when she obeyed and punished her when she failed. Alone in that lab, 11 learned her first lessons: pain, fear, and power. Inside Hawkins Lab, Jane wasn't treated like a child. She was treated like a weapon in training. Day after day, Dr. Brenner pushed her to do the impossible. Crush a soda can with her mind, break glass without touching it, move objects across the room. And she did. Every time she obeyed, he smiled. Every time she failed, she felt the weight of disappointment. But her powers weren't just tricks. They came at a cost. Every nosebleed, every scream, every moment in the sensory tank tore pieces of her apart. She was pushed further, deeper. That's when she discovered the void, a black, endless space where sound carried forever, and distance meant nothing. From there, Brenner forced her to spy on men across the world. Soviet agents, enemies of the state. 11 wasn't a child anymore. She was America's secret weapon. And then, something else answered her. Something not human. When she reached too far, she touched a monster, the Demogorgon. It was the first time 11 realized her powers weren't just dangerous to others. They could destroy her too. The lab could keep her locked up, but it couldn't keep her forever. One night, 11 broke free. Terrified, alone, still wearing the hospital gown, she ran into the woods. Every shadow felt like a hunter. Every sound like Brenner's men closing in. Hunger drove her into Hawkins. She slipped inside a small diner, Benny's Burgers. Desperate, she stole fries from the counter, eating like she hadn't seen food in days. When Benny caught her, it should have been the end. But instead of turning her in, he offered her more food. For a brief moment, 11 saw kindness, a glimpse of the normal life she never had. But kindness never lasted. Brenner's agents traced her, stormed the diner, and Benny was killed. Another person gone because of her. Another reminder that she couldn't trust the world outside the lab. Alone again, she ran. And this time, she found herself in Mike Wheeler's basement. At first, she said almost nothing. Just one word: 11, pointing to the tattoo on her arm. It wasn't her real name, but it was the only identity she had left. Mike, Dustin, and Lucas didn't see a weapon. They saw a friend. A strange, quiet, powerful girl, but a friend. Mike offered her food, Eggos, and for the first time, 11 tasted something like normal life. But danger was always close behind. Brenner's men were still searching, and 11 realized that if she wanted this friendship to last, she'd have to fight for it. For the boys, 11 was a miracle. For Hawkins Lab, she was stolen property. Her powers became their greatest weapon. She helped Mike and his friends find Will, reaching into the void, searching through darkness. Every vision left her weaker, her nose bleeding, but she kept going, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't fighting for Brenner. She was fighting for friends. She protected them from bullies, snapping a wrist with a flick of her head. She sent armed agents flying across rooms, her rage unleashed in seconds. But every use of her power brought her closer to the truth, that she was the reason the gate had opened in the first place. And then came the Demogorgon. At Hawkins Middle School, surrounded by her friends, 11 made her choice. No more running, no more hiding. With one final scream, she unleashed everything inside her. The monster was torn apart, but so was she. The Demogorgon vanished, and so did 11. To the world, it looked like she was gone, sacrificed. But for 11, this was only the beginning. The world believed she was dead, but 11 had survived. She had slipped out of the Upside Down, crawling through filth and darkness until she found the way back. Alive, but still hunted. For weeks, she hid in the woods, starving, watching from the shadows. Every knock at a door, every flash of light, felt like Brenner's men coming for her again, until one man found her. Jim Hopper, the town's broken sheriff, and now her protector. Hopper took her to a small cabin deep in the forest. Wooden walls, locked windows, rules written on paper. Don't open the door. Don't leave. He became her guardian, feeding her, teaching her, keeping her safe. But safety came with a price. 11 wasn't free. The cabin was just another prison. She wanted friends. She wanted Mike. But Hopper's fear of losing her kept the walls tight, the rules harsher. Their arguments grew louder. Anger boiled inside her. She was no longer just a child hiding in fear. She was a girl desperate to choose her own life. And that desperation would soon send her searching for the truth of who she really was. For so long, she only knew herself as 11, a number, a weapon. But the truth had been buried. Her real name was Jane. Jane Ives. Pieces of her past began to surface. Blurry memories of a woman's voice, a soft lullaby, the warmth of a mother's arms. She followed those memories back to Terry Ives, her biological mother. But what she found wasn't the reunion she dreamed of. Terry was broken, trapped in a loop of trauma after years of experiments. She couldn't speak to her daughter. She could only repeat fragments. Breathe, sunflower, rainbow, clues of a life 11 never got to have. Then came another revelation. She wasn't the only one. Callie 008, a sister from the lab. Older, fierce, vengeful, Callie offered her something Brenner never did: power without restraint. Together, they hunted those who had wronged them. 11 almost lost herself to it. Anger burned in her veins. Revenge whispered in her ear. But in the end, she walked away. Because Mike, Hopper, her friends, they weren't just people. They were family. And 11 realized she didn't want to be a monster of revenge. She wanted to be Jane. Hawkins wasn't safe. The Mind Flayer had spread its shadow across the town. Vines crawled through walls. Soldiers fell to the creatures, and Will Byers was once again caught in its grip. For 11, this was no longer about survival. This was war. She returned to her friends, a reunion that shook Mike to tears. After everything, she was alive, but there was no time for relief. The gate to the Upside Down was wide open beneath Hawkins Lab, and only she had the power to close it. The moment she entered the lab, the building shook with the cries of monsters. Hopper fired Keith's bullets, holding them back, but it was 11 who had to face the impossible. She stood before the gaping wound in the earth, vines thrashing, darkness spilling through. Her hands rose, her body trembled. Memories of Brenner, the pain, the loss, the loneliness, everything she endured poured out of her in one last scream. The gate shrieked, fought back, refused to close, but 11 didn't stop. Blood streamed from her nose, her eyes filled with fury. With a final surge of strength, she sealed the gate shut. Silence. Hawkins was safe, for now. But 11 knew the war with the Upside Down was far from over. For the first time, 11 tried living like a normal teenager. Trips to the mall, sleepovers, a boyfriend. For a moment, she wasn't a weapon or an experiment. She was just a girl, laughing, shopping, eating ice cream with her friends. Mike and 11's relationship grew stronger, even if Hopper hated every second of it. The sheriff's overprotective rules turned into shouting matches, slamming doors, and anger on both sides. But teenage freedom couldn't last. Darkness returned to Hawkins. The Mind Flayer had found a way back, stronger and deadlier than before. The summer of Starcourt Mall turned into chaos. 11 fought harder than ever, throwing cars, hurling enemies, pushing her powers past their limits. Every scream tore at her body. Every fight left her weaker. And then came the moment that broke her. In the final battle against the Mind Flayer, 11 was wounded badly. Her powers, the very thing that defined her, vanished. For the first time since childhood, she was powerless. Hopper's apparent death crushed her even further. She lost her father figure, her protector, and the man who gave her a home. With her powers gone and her family broken, 11 was left facing a terrifying truth. Without her abilities, she wasn't sure who she really was. After the battle at Starcourt, 11's life changed forever. She moved to California with the Byers family, leaving Hawkins behind. A new home, a new school, a chance to start fresh. But without her powers, 11 wasn't unstoppable anymore. She was vulnerable, and the world saw it. At school, bullies circled her like sharks. They mocked her clothes, her voice, her past. At the roller rink, it all exploded. Laughter, humiliation, paint splashed across her face. For years, she had crushed monsters with her mind. Now she couldn't even defend herself. In rage and desperation, she struck back, lashing out violently, and instead of respect, it only left her in handcuffs. But Hawkins was already in danger again. Vecna had begun his killings, and the world needed 11. Dr. Owens arrived with an offer, a chance to save everyone, if she was willing to face the man she feared most. Brenner, Papa. Dragged back into the desert bunker, she was forced to relive her past. Sensory tanks, endless drills, visions of the lab she thought she'd escaped. Every test pushed her deeper into old wounds. She saw herself as a child again, facing Henry Creel, the boy who would become Vecna. And in that bunker, 11 finally learned the truth. She wasn't just a victim of the lab. She was the one who had banished Henry into the Upside Down. The day she discovered her darkest secret, that she had created the monster haunting Hawkins. The truth was darker than anything 11 ever imagined. As a child in Hawkins Lab, she had trusted Henry Creel. a kind face in a world of cruelty. But behind that smile was a predator. Henry wasn't just another test subject, he was the first. 001, Brenner's original experiment, and when the moment came, Henry revealed who he really was. He slaughtered the guards, tore through the children, blood painted the walls of the lab. 11 was the only one left standing against him. Terrified, shaking, she fought back. Their battle-cracked walls, shattered glass, bent steel. And in her desperation, 11 unleashed a force stronger than ever before. She didn't kill Henry, she ripped open a gate, and with one final scream, she banished him into the darkness of the Upside Down. But the Upside Down didn't destroy him, it transformed him, twisted him into something far worse. Vecna. Years later in Hawkins, Vecna's curse began. Teenagers snapped into the air, bones breaking, eyes bleeding. And every time it happened, 11 felt the weight of her past. She hadn't just opened the gate, she had created the monster that haunted them all. She trained harder, clawing her powers back piece by piece. And when the final battle came, she faced Vecna in the void. Their minds clashed, their power tearing through reality. 11 managed to save Max barely, but she couldn't kill Vecna. The war wasn't over, it had only begun. Hawkins lay in ruins, the sky split, the Upside Down spilling through, and 11 stood there watching the world burn, knowing the monster she created would one day return for her. From Jane Ives to 11, from a stolen child to a warrior, her journey has never been simple. She was raised as an experiment, used as a weapon, but became something no one expected. A hero. Every sacrifice, every battle, every loss shaped her into more than just 11. She became a daughter to Hopper, a friend to Mike, a sister to her group. She found a family in the very place she was never supposed to. But her story isn't finished, because the monster she once banished isn't dead. Vecna is still out there, and Hawkins is already breaking apart. The girl who opened the gate may now be the only one who can close it forever. But the real question is, what happens next? Will 11 finally destroy Vecna, or will the monster she created end up destroying her? Will Max ever wake up? And can Hawkins survive when the Upside Down has already begun swallowing it whole? Season 5 will decide everything. And if you want me to dive into the wildest theories about how Stranger Things could end, let me know. Should 11's final battle be my next video?